Good morning, I am Samson Balogun and this is The Break Live on Dominion Television, Ibadan. We begin with a significant development in Nigeria's power sector. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has resigned. What led to this decision? What does it mean for ongoing reforms in the electricity sector? And how might it affect policy continuity at a time when power supply remains a major national concern? That is our Daybreak Gist this morning. We'll also bring you the weather report and shortly after, Daybreak News with major development shaping the day.
Definitely, and I'm Oluwayomi Adelabu. We then turn to the newspaper headlines. This morning's front pages reflect a mix of political development, governance questions, and public reaction. We'll take a closer look at the major stories and the perspective behind them. At the top of the hour, our big story examines the relationship between two key arms of government, checks, balances, or power play. Understanding the executive-legislative nexus, are the interactions between the executive and the legislature strengthening democratic accountability, or are they increasingly shaped by political interests and power negotiations?
All right, join us for that conversation. Of course, Sam Wuko will be joining us. He's the deputy editor at the Nigerian Tribune. And before we close, Trend Watch will highlight the stories and conversations gaining traction across the country this morning.
Definitely. It's indeed a morning of insight and critical thinking.
Right, let's get right to it and we shall begin.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yemi. It's really nice to be here and to talk about so many things. But then before that, let's go on a quick break, and when we return, of course, we'll continue with that particular conversation on the show this morning. We'll be back. All right, welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, Ibadan. All right, we begin with the conversation around the resignation of the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, who yesterday submitted his resignation letter to the SGF. And then people will be saying a lot of things. They have actually said a lot about it anyway. But Yemi, Oluwayemi Adelabu will stay here with me in the studio, and which one will be making sense of this particular story and what it means for the political landscape in Oyo State. Before now, so many people said the fact that he did not resign when others were resigning from the cabinet of the president, that there is a chance he might not be contesting in the forthcoming gubernatorial election in Oyo State. And just shortly after that, the day before yesterday, about 2 days ago, yes, he had a meeting with some political bigwigs in Nigeria, especially chieftains in the APC, which included Chief B.C. Akonde, a former governor, and of course also included a few other people. Probably during that period, a compromise was reached and he had to resign because he has always made it known that his only ambition that is left is to become governor of Oyo State. And now that he has resigned, there are so many permutations and combinations. People have said the anointed candidate of the APC, just like the consensus we have had in Ogun, where Senator Solomon Lamilekon Adeola Yayi was chosen to be the flag bearer of the APC in the forthcoming election. In Lagos, there are rumors, and some have even denied it, that the current deputy governor of Lagos State, which is Obafemi Hamzat, might likely be the flag bearer of the APC in Ogun. But then, if all that are settled, in fact, some even said that, including senatorial seats, they have been fixed, which included Ogun East will be going to the current governor of Ogun State, which is Governor Dapo Abiodun, and so many other places like that. In Oyo State, yesterday, even Engineer Remi Osenuwa, who wants to be a member of the Federal House of Representatives in Oyo State, also made mention of something like that, that there was a stakeholders meeting, where the president told him that it is not time for him to be governor of Oyo State. Go and contest for the office of senator, and after that we can see how you become governor of Oyo State. So there are stakeholders meetings are being done over and over again to decide who becomes the consensus candidate of every party, and they have to be in alignment. They all have to be in agreement. That the Minister of Power has resigned now means that according to his letter that he submitted to the SDF, he noted that he wants to focus on his aspiration to be governor of Oyo State. And that, of course, he still belongs to the APC. That means he will be doing that under the banner of the APC. So will it go to the wire, where everyone will have to contest and win primaries? I mean, a due process, there will be no consensus, or there's a likelihood that he just resigned just to make sure that the president's ambition in Oyo State is fulfilled.
Right. So just like you mentioned, he's been aspiring to become governor since 2016, and he noted that in the letter as well. that at that time he even had to resign as the deputy governor of the CBN,
CBN,
just so he could contest. So, and then he's been there trying to contest all this while. And then even when he got the appointment, a lot of persons were asking, why did he accept it when he had the intention of contesting? But then at the end of the day, he decided to accept, that appointment. And then going back now to the drawing board, and then you mentioned a very vital point that the president said whosoever wants to contest should resign or not before 31st of March. But then Adebayo Adelabu did not, follow that. And then I think I read a particular headline this morning and then said the reason why he did not resign, on or before 31st is because he wanted to stabilize the power sector. And there's so many persons are saying, oh, that's a valid argument because, I mean, that sector is very, very vital, very germane. I mean, it speaks to the lives of, every Nigerian, and maybe that's why. So, and we also learned that he visited the president shortly before he decided to resign, released the letter. So maybe they've had several conversations. And just like you mentioned, he also visited, Baba Kondi, and I'm very sure he visited some other persons that even camera, could not, get to. So basically now, I think it's going to be a little bit intense in Oyo State. So doing a consensus will not work because I remember there was an election in Oyo State, I think 2025, for one particular seat that was vacant. And then APC decided to go with a consensus candidate.
That was about enough.
Yeah.
The vacant position left by Ola Akeremi, popularly known as Jagaban. It was actually late, and then a rerun, of course, an election was to be conducted to fill that position. But unfortunately, people said the right candidate was not chosen because it was a consensus, that they could have gone to the primaries. And obviously, there were so many other candidates who some people argued that were much more popular at that time that could have actually, filled that void and contest for that election. Even members of the APC, according to some reports, did not, support the candidate that was chosen.
So it was a good advantage for the PDP at that time because so many persons were not happy with the consensus. So if it could cause problem at that level, imagine if they decide to go with consensus at this level of governorship. It's going to cause more problem, and of course it's going to lead to another big advantage for other political parties that are trying to slug it out with the APC. And of course it's not the only person. There was one of my analysts came on this show on this set and said Sharafa Ali is the anointed candidate of the APC, and I was like, you can't say that.
It hasn't even been announced yet.
Exactly, you cannot say that. It looks like they actually go through primaries because of these people. They are influential people in the APC, and there are other persons too who have also visited. They have been visiting because that's what politicians for. When it's time for elections like this, they will visit people that can help them in one way or the other. So we also have Teslim Folari, who is also, his body language looks like he's going to contest too. So we really cannot say whosoever is going to become the flag bearer. And they're looking at what he has done. I'm talking about Adebayo Adelabu now. So many people in your state are still questioning the reason why he wants to contest, especially with what he did, as Minister of Power. Because at the end of the day, before people will vote for you, they have to check whatsoever it is that you have done in office before. So, on that basis, that's why a lot of persons will vote for you. So basically, it speaks to, how APC, or let me say how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will manage, this election in your state, or we manage the primaries in your state. Because if they don't do it well, it's going to affect your APC, and it's going to be very brutal. Because I remember that by-election that I made reference to, it led to a serious problem. I watched certain videos where people were trying to beat themselves up. Some persons were injured, things like that. Even reporters that went there had to run for their lives because it was that intense. So if it could happen like that, at that level, governorship level is going to be more intense. And if care is not taken, if they don't play this game well, I don't know. I don't even know why APC wants to try consensus in some state, because at the end of the day, people will tell you it's not democratic enough. How do you know that's the best person for the post? Let them go through primaries and let the best person win. But then you really cannot tell. And then it's up to APC, up to their constitution to decide whatsoever they want to do. But then looking at what is on ground now, if they don't play this game well, I don't think it will end in a good way for them. Basically.
Well, if you look at with the look of things, I think the president understands. I think one of the things he said was that there is a possibility that there are some people in that political party, if one gets the ticket, it might not likely support the other. And that includes what happened between Senator Teslim Folari and Chief Adebayo Adelabu, who both were members of the APC. I think that was in 2019. In 2019, he contested. In 2023, he contested too. But he left, when he did not get the ticket at the point, he left the party, APC, and went to Accord. And that actually polarized the APC, leaving the gap for the PDP to actually win the election. Because some people did the permutation and said, if Adebayo Adelabu had stayed in the party, maybe by now, Teslim Kolawole for the Senator, Teslim Kolawole for Larry, who happens to be a former Senate leader, would have been the governor of Oyo State by now, because it's been an ambition he's been nursing since the days of Chief Lamidi Adebayo in Oyo State. And unfortunately, he's not been able to achieve that. He still nurses that ambition. He's looking for maybe one way or the other, that opportunity, that door of opportunity would eventually open. But as it stands, some people are saying, if you give these two people, the other would want to repeat what he did. Maybe Adebayo Adelabu would want to do the same thing he did in the past election, and of course, not support Teslim Kolawole Folani. And if you give Bayo Adelabu, Teslim Kolawole Folani might likely do a repeat of what Bayo did and say, look, it is time for me to pay you back. And that would affect the faith of the APC in the coming election. And I think as we speak, APC has an advantage, only if they can actually make good use of the advantage. The PDP, as a political party, especially in Oyo State, it's in shambles, because you can't really say where, where some people belong to. There are two factions of the PDP, Seyi Makinde-led faction, the governor of Oyo State, and there is the Azim Bolarumi faction, who happens to be a former deputy governor in Oyo State to late Christopher Adebayo Adelabu. Now, with the look of things, if the APC can keep their house in order and maybe go through primaries and everyone would understand, yes, we contested this primary, free and fair, and I lost, and I want to support the candidate of my political party, and everyone is on the same page, they have an advantage. Because right now, according to what Michael Ogunshina said, there might be a likelihood that they are going to leave the PDP, go to another political party, contest the election, and after the election, they come back to the PDP and then, create, maybe finish off with the fight they have started and maybe win the party back to their side. But if that happens, the PDP will be at a disadvantage. I mean, the Seyi Makinde-led faction will be at a disadvantage because, one, you have to publicize the political party, because as it stands, I don't think they are going to Accord. I don't think they are going to ADP, because ADP seems to have a candidate already. I don't think they are going to APC, because APC, of course, they are still very much stronger as it stands when it comes to structure. They might be polarized within the party, but with the outlook, the APC is still much stronger. And then I don't think they are going to any political party that really has, someone that looks like a flag bearer already. So the available party that they will go to, or parties, who maybe include NDC, owned by Seriake Dixon, and some other smaller political parties. And when that happens, you have to do publicity for your political party first, and then you start publicizing your candidate. So it means that they are at a disadvantage. I don't think there is enough time to start doing all of that. It will affect the popularity of the party, affect the popularity of the candidate. So the PDP will be at a disadvantage. But for the APC, if they can put their house in order, I think there is a chance that they might actually do better in the next election. However, there are members of the PDP who have also moved camp. There are members of the APC who have also moved camp too. But if you look at the trajectory of Accord too, Accord might just be one of the dark horses you'll be looking out for in the next election in Oyo State. Because if all political parties now, they have been fragmented, okay, you have moved to this political party, that has moved to another political party, you are now on the same level playing field with a party like Accord and maybe ADP, then there might be surprises. Right. That is why some political parties, you have to put your house in order and make sure that you pacify every member that has not gotten the ticket and say, look, there is hope. When we win, you get this. I think it was you that was talking to someone and said, look, it's not like some of us are really happy in the APC. But the president has been able to pacify some of us to stay. Maybe compensate them with one or two things. And that has worked for him so far. And I think that has been the method he's been using for so many years. In fact, it would still work with some people who some people perceive to be his enemies. And some of them have even gotten appointments, including Reno Omokri. And that has worked for him. If the APC can find a level playing field, or maybe if the PDP can also close the gap between the Nyesom Wike-led faction and the Seyi Makinde-led faction for the sake of the election. Let's move forward. Let's find a common ground. Maybe we have a sharing formula, 60-40. You bring 60%, I bring 40, or maybe 50-50, because we both have what we are bringing to the table. You have the structure of the party according to INEC, and we have, the popularity in the state. Let's come together and do something. Right. Until that is done, I think the election will be so open for everyone to just crawl into the office. Right.
So let me take it from the angle of Seyi Makinde now, because so many persons are waiting for him to announce his preferred candidate. Because he's been there for 8 years. So a lot of persons will want to say, okay, because he's been there for 8 years, we want to vote for whosoever he's trying to support, and then that might tilt the balance a little bit. I remember that the current speaker Adebayo Adelabu also declared his intention to contest recently, and we really cannot tell whether it's going to be the anointed candidate or not. And then the faction in PDP also is a problem. But then there's one thing I've come to understand in politics, which is anything can happen, between 24 hours. So these factions that are trying to say we are not going to agree, we are not going to do this, they might come together, before 24 hours, and then the game will change. Because at the end of the day, it's about interest. And then I think Seyi Makinde, the governor, who is a little bit, calm about this entire situation, maybe he has some plans that, he's not been able to come out to say to the people. Because I expect, surprises in your state, especially from the Seyi Makinde angle. And then that's because, he's that kind of person that loves to surprise the people. He's going to be calm. All of a sudden, you just come out with that surprise. So I think whoever is going to contest or come from him might actually have an advantage to that, incumbent advantage, basically because maybe the governor is trying to say, this is the person I want to support. But then, if the PDP, decides not to come together, it's going to be a problem. And now let's talk about accord. I think Oriyomi Hamzat is an accord, right? And then, of course, he's trying to contest. So the chances of Adelabu, leaving from APC to accord is slim. But maybe he can do it. Yeah, we really cannot say. But then it appears that Oriyomi Hamzat is also
there before.
He's been there. He's also very, weak. Last year, I think they had, some sort of meeting. And then we saw the crowd, but even though some persons came out to say, you see that crowd that you saw, don't make no mistake to think, was just, supporters of Accord Party that came. Some APC people were there. PDP people were also there. So do not even think that, that was just Accord Party, alone. So, and then people try to, talk about Accord Party. Okay, it's not a party that is so strong. They don't really have structures. But then, Adeleke of Osun State moved from the PDP to Accord Party. And then people said the same thing to him to say, this party that you, went to, are you sure it can deliver? But then Adeleke, and according to some of his loyalists, they're trying to bank on the popularity of Adeleke. Right. And of course, what he has been able to do in Osun State. So whether Accord Party will work for him or not, I mean, that's up to him. So at the end of the day, we should not also, just like you mentioned, we should not, Yoruba people will say, Kama Fodu Tembelu Party. Right. Don't see any party as too
Your popularity small. Is also very important. Acceptability
is very key, especially in this, in this election that we are preparing for. I think Oyo is going to be, I don't know, I don't want to scare people. At the end
might
of
likely
the day,
be the toughest.
It might be the toughest, especially because the current governor is leaving.
It will be keenly contested.
Exactly. I didn't mean, Seyi Makinde is still contesting. Okay, maybe people can still speculate to say, oh, maybe because, he's been doing maybe what some persons like. And that's not to say there are people, we don't have people in your state who do not like, Seyi Makinde. That's very constant. It doesn't matter. There will always be people who do not support you. Right. Even within his own political party, especially PDP for that matter, that we know that party, that a lot of, party members, they like to, involve themselves in anti-party activities. So basically, I do not see Adelabu leaving the APC, but it can happen, basically.
Well, anything can happen.
Right.
But if you, now, according to what some reports are saying, and some political commentators, that if you really have an ambition, and you are still in the camp of Governor Seyi Makinde as it stands, you might likely be playing with your ambition. The reason is he has absolutely nothing to lose. He will be leaving office in maybe just a little over a year. Right. And I don't think he has made it clear to anyone that he wants to be senator. If he has something to contest for, maybe he would, have something at stake. But I don't think he has said that to anybody. And I don't think he has been clear about, his intention to be president. He only said he's qualified to be president. Right. And he has what it takes to be president. And he has not come out to say, look, I'm contesting for the office of the president, or maybe I'm contesting to be, the senator in your state. So this might be really, really dicey. And if you look at the names of people who have thrown their hats in the ring to be governor of Oyo State in the PDP, some people have argued that there used to be a time where you have so many popular names in that regard, but it's not really like that. And it's not like they are not popular, but according to what people are saying, yeah, there used to be a time where you have a certain Senator Teslim Kolawole Folani, Chief Bayo Adelabu, Sheyi Makinde. These are household names in Oyo State politics. Right. But as it stands, some of them are actually greenhorns, contesting for the first time to be governor. But these people are people who they have contested maybe 2-3 times. The experience will always count. And you have state chairman of Universal Basic Education, Nureni Adeniro, former commissioner for finance, budget and planning during the late former governor Abiola Ajimobi's administration, that is Bimbo Adekombi. State chairman of Oyo State Agribusiness Development, Debo Akonde, and speaker of the House of Assembly, Adebayo Adelabu. You also have member representing Ibadan Southeast, Northeast Federal Constituency, Adedeji Olajide Odidiomo Stanley. He's also contesting to be governor for the first time. However, the first timers also win elections. I'm not saying they cannot win elections, but there must have been a level of groundworks done already. And there must have been a level of acceptability all through the state. I'm not saying in your federal constituency or in your ward or in your polling unit. It has to cut across 33 local governments in Oyo State. And that's a lot. Because Oyo State happens to be, a state, arguably the biggest when it comes to states in Nigeria. Because you look at the number of local governments as against the number of people, you would know that Oyo State actually deserves maybe 50 to 60 local government areas, and that's why some LCDAs were created under later former governor Isiaka Abiola Ajimobi at that time. So you will tell that there are so many places to be touched, and I don't think this can be done by green horns. Okay, it requires experience, especially at the time when that party, the PDP or the faction of the governor Sheyi Makinde, they are going through this kind of turbulent times in their own political party, and they might likely have to leave that party to contest elections. So experience might really count, and popularity, acceptability might just be one of the things that will be needed. However, people would say, oh, the popularity of the governor might just, help the candidate. But hey, it's not the governor's name that will be on the ballot. At the end of the day, some people will say it's not even contesting. Let's listen to what this person has to say, especially in elitist areas where they would want to listen to you. They want to know what exactly you are bringing to the table. And also, it's not about how vocal you are. If you be the most vocal person on planet Earth, you must still have substance in what you are saying to the people. If you polish your English from now till tomorrow and speak Queens, some people still don't get it until you put something on the table and say, look, this is what I have in plan. There must be a clear roadmap to you transforming Oyo State from what it is now to what you want it to be. And some people will say, oh, we are banking on. Some people have even argued that what is, Omituzu 3.0, this man is not contesting to be governor again. Don't you have your own agenda? We have seen people who have had their own acronym for whatever it is they want to do in 2027, like the speaker saying Igbega Oyo, and some other people like that having their own. But some people have been banking on the popularity of the governor. Why not work on yourself? I think yesterday or day before yesterday we were talking about how much it costs to buy forms in some political parties. APC, they say it's too expensive, or PDP, expensive. I mean, they cannot put their forms at a very cheap rate, because it will now mean that everyone in the political party will say they want to be governor. Look at the number of people that have come out in the Oyo State as it stands, as we speak, that say they want to be governor. How many of them are popular enough to win an election in Oyo State?
But we are seeing their banners everywhere.
Yes, they will be there.
It's not about banners.
The truth is, some of them, it's not meant to say that they cannot win election. Sometimes some things do happen, and then election will just tilt towards one person. Even when, some people contested other popular parties, they did not win. But when they tried something else, it worked out for them. I think a member on the floor of House of Rep, Abejide from Kogi State, a member of the ADC, he contested with the ADC, and he won. We have seen people contest with some political parties, and then they win. There was a time, this accord we are talking about, it was the current Olubado of Ibadan land, Obarashidi Adewolu Ladoja, a senator, a former senator, and of course a former governor, that actually made accord popular in Oyo State. And lo and behold, in Ibadan Northeast at that time, they won elections in Ibadan Northeast, even though it was not, widely spread across Oyo State. But hey, they won seats in Ibadan Northeast and some other local governments in Oyo State. So your popularity, your acceptability also has a role to play in elections. So it's not about being riding on the horse of the grace of another person. Can you do it? Even if you are given the responsibility, are you competent? So all these things will have to be in the pipeline. Of course, it's something you have to think about.
Right, and then speaking about riding on the popularity of the person who is about to leave the office, especially in a situation where the party is not united, because I mean, it can even work. You can even still bank on it. When your party is united,
it's strong.
Take Rivers for instance. Look at from Wike to Fubara. The party was united. They agreed that okay, this is the person that we want, and then he won the election. And now that the Wike and Fubara are not close, you know that there was a time somebody asked Wike, are you going to be supporting Fubara for the next election? He said, I'm not here to talk about that. And that's because, I mean, he doesn't want to talk about it. It speaks volume. So when the party is not united, it's a big disadvantage. And so you might not really want to bank on the popularity of the person who is about to leave. Same thing happened when, the late governor, Ajimobi, served for 8 years. APC was not united at that time, especially one candidate even had to leave, had to jump ship to another political party because he didn't get the ticket. So if care is not taken, I don't know what games PDP is trying to play, especially the faction of Makinde now. Wike has already said, I have interest in your state and I'm going to do whatever I want to do.
I'm going to put fire in your state.
So if they don't agree with his terms and conditions, I don't see how they can come together. But then if PDP decides to reconcile, APC should go and do more, basically.
Well, just before we go, there might just be a likelihood of a PD-APC candidate in Rivers because he currently aligns with the power at the center, and that is with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And they have a former PDP governor who is now an APC governor in that state. So with that kind of alignment, there might just be a consensus between APC and PDP in Rivers and say, we are bringing one person, and this is the person we want you to vote for. So the election might just be a formality in that state. Right. But these things do happen. There are situations where some things that are unprecedented will happen in some places.
It will become clearer as it progresses.
Let's see what will happen in Rivers, actually. Will Fubara come out for the election? Will he get the ticket for the election? That is one. Will he hear some Wike support similar Fubara? Is another big question. And then will there be a coalition between APC, not merging the parties, but of course standing as apart, but saying, look, we want this particular person to be our governor? That will be another big question when the time comes. But the primaries are almost here, and the final deadline to select consensus candidates is also almost here. So let's see what will happen, and then we can judge and say, look, this is the direction some of these states are facing, especially with the issues going around about consensus selection across all the states.
Right.
But that will be the convenient point to leave that topic this morning. Let's help you plan your day, and we'll take weather report on this show.